Hey, Chris.
Okay. Did you decide to wear the same shirt? That side of the table didn't get their pin on. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, will you let us know when we're live?
I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna call our
Wait,
meeting.
we're not ready yet.
You ready?
Yeah, I said he was gonna let us know when they're ready.
All right, we should be able to go.
Good. We're gonna call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you to our meeting this evening. If you have cell phones, I would ask that you please turn them off at this time. We will stand and have pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Hodges and prayer by Councilmember Reed.
If you would like to pray with us, would you please remain standing? Dear God of us all, we thank you for this day, a day that you have made, a day that we shall all rejoice and be glad in. Thank you for this time, God. We ask you to just give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we begin to work on the agenda that is set before the city of Madison and to make the best decisions on behalf of the city of Madison. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All our council members are present tonight. Approve of minutes of previous meetings, and I hope that you've had a chance to read the minutes of the work session of our call meeting on July 30th, 2021, our call meeting of August the 2nd, 2021, and our call meeting of August the 13th, 2021. If you had a chance to read those minutes, I would ask for a motion, please, on the second.
So moved.
Councilmember?
Second.
Go ahead.
So moved.
I second it.
Is that about discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, none, vote unanimously. Thank you so much. Approval of all of agenda items. Is there anything need to be added to our agenda tonight?
Are we, Mr. Mayor, we're gonna add the city manager's report, which he appears to have passed out. Do we need to put that on the agenda?
You want to make a verbal report? Should we could add that to the agenda?
If we, I would so move then, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Where are we adding this to the
It would be
agenda?
At the end.
New
probably at
business
the
C.
end,
Just before public.
11C.
11C, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, none. Vote unanimous, that will be added. Manager report, 11C. Okay. First thing on our agenda this evening is a public hearing for our fiscal year 2021 budget amendment. Our finance person talked to us about this at our work session. At our last work session, and we're going to open this hearing up for a public hearing up. And if there's anyone here who wants to speak against this public hearing, now's the time to make your remarks, give us a statement.
The public hearing is open.
Public hearing is open.
And the
Yes.
number, if you're listening and would like to call in, is 706-707-8801.
And they have a minute to call in.
I think we do a minute and a half.
I don't think anybody, is anybody on? I don't see anybody.
Eric's on.
I have a couple, no.
You're correct. There's no one on.
No one on, so no one would probably call us open. Anyone here for the
Be against.
budget amendment besides our council members? So there's no one who's on, no one would probably call in. Is anybody on the phone? Eric, No one's on the phone.
No one's on live and no one's on GoTo.
So this public hearing is closed, and it's back to our council members for approval of this.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
did you want to ask for anybody that want to speak against it?
we did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I
yeah.
just heard four.
Yeah, for or against, yeah.
Hearing aids aren't working. Let's go.
So it's back to our council members for approval.
And this represents what we talked about at the last meeting.
Right, yes it is.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would move to accept the revised budget for fiscal 2022 as presented.
Second?
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, none, the vote unanimously, so this budget for fiscal year 2021 amendment has been approved. Thank you so much, Councilmember Doris. Package license, beer, wine, and Bristol Spirits, Sujet, I guess Enterprise Incorporated, DBA Easy Ball Shop, 330 West Washington Street, applicant Sujet Coral. Ashley?
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I received an application for the Easy Bottle Shop, as we all know, has purchased one of the spots at the new West Washington Gateway project. They are actually changing owners when they move over. So the new owner is Surjeet, and she has completed the application. She's completed the checklist, including distance requirements to alcohol rehab facilities, housing authorities, churches, and schools. I've received drawings of the structure both inside and outside. They've turned in required affidavits, bonds. She's completed her background check. They have also, they have insurance currently at their current address. However, they can't transfer that over until they're there. The liquor liability requirements, so I don't have that yet, but they have one active at their other location. So I know that's not going to be an issue with them. And had a little bit of a snag in my accounting system this morning when I was getting their invoice put together, so that delayed their payment until tomorrow morning because we require a certified check for package sales. So didn't quite have enough time to get to the bank to do that today, but they will get that done first thing in the morning. So I would like to ask if there are any questions, first of all, and then ask for approval of a new licensee and a new location for Easy Bottle Shop. It would be Surjeet Enterprises, Inc., DBA Easy Bottle Shop. They were applying for package sales of beer, wine, and liquor at 330 West Washington Street.
Okay.
And that's the address of the new building that DDA.
I checked in with Monica. We double-checked that with Bryce today as well.
So between now and then, so how does that
So
work?
this just gives them an opportunity to
Okay.
start the application process.
With the
for
state?
new- With
Okay,
the state.
gotcha. All right.
Because it'll,
So
these
they
take a little bit
won't
longer.
exist at the same time?
No.
Okay. Not that it,
There might be a little bit.
it doesn't, I mean, not that
overlap,
that
but-
matters, I just think for public knowledge, that would be something we would
Yes.
want to disclose.
Absolutely.
There might be some overlap between when they move over and it's, when it's ready and when they move over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't
didn't
think
get
that's an issue.
detailed about how they will make that official move over, but yes, but right now, his name has just left me. He is the owner of Easy Bottle, and this is a new owner, so.
So this change of ownership has nothing to do with the lease that exists?
Now, the
that
lease
will
is
carry
already-
on to the new,
No, the lease has already been terminated.
because of the...
They
Because
purchased-
of the, what, officially been terminated
Yeah, that lease was terminated.
in return for the new building? Kind of.
There's no lease on the new building.
They purchased.
They're
the-
buying the new building. What was taken out was the lease that was with Doris Clark when we got it.
Gotcha.
That was a perpetual lease up to 25 years. They dropped that lease and they're buying that over across the street.
Thank you.
That's a win-win.
It is.
Yeah, that was a non-performing lease.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly thank our DDA for working hard with this company. If we can get a motion to approve this license, package license beer.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, none, vote unanimously. Thank you. Peak Steel Contractor, Bull Street Change Order Number 1, attachment. Mr. Nunn, are you going to handle that for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is related to that same site, the new building and the Adrian's building. When we did the parking lot, the Bull Street parking lot, Peak Steel was the low bidder on that. You know, it was $463,625. There were items that were between the building and the parking lot. They're kind of in between. They're not exactly building and they're not exactly parking lot. So we knew that those things had to be done. They include drainage from the building all the way around. Part of this is piping all that storm drainage off the building and from the building site back and tying that into the storm structures and the storm drains, storm water related to the parking lot. Also, the grading around the buildings associated with that, and 1,800, nearly 2,000 square feet of concrete sidewalk that was not in the building project will be done on this. ADA, some ADA ramping and some walls, a set of stairs and aluminum rails. So everything that was on the site plan related to the building that didn't get included in the building, nor did it get included in the parking lot, is in this change order. It's quite a bit of work. It will bring the site around the buildings and transition to the parking lot. It'll bring it down to the proper grade, and it will eliminate that period of time where the parking lot's finished and the building's finished and some things are incomplete between the two, and everybody's looking at one another saying, who's going to do this? We're trying to tie all those loose ends up, and that's the change order, $59,210, and we're putting it all in the contract with the Bull Street parking lot, and I'll do some heavy-duty negotiations with DDA on some of this that they may want to help pay for, because they're more building-related than they are parking lot. But we'll see what we can do with that. But needless to say, this is a change order on that contract that you just approved last month in the amount of $59,210, and I'm recommending approval of that. So Peak Steel they continue to do all the work down there, which is not a bad way to go.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I might have an old copy here, but I don't see that on the agenda.
On the,
On our agenda, I know it should be.
Yeah, you might have.
updated copy.
It's on,
Oh, you're-
and the attachment too.
Well, I've got it, I just have the wrong one opened up.
Ken has one.
Okay, thank you, Ken. I just wanted to make sure from my
Yes,
own-
you're right.
I figured it was, so
Well, thank you,
let me
sir.
go back and open up.
I'll answer in
Do they have a time frame when the planning gets started?
Excuse me?
Do they have a time frame when the planning gets started?
Yes, they're not going to start on the parking lot until they get some of their pipe on site. There's no need in starting and then stopping again. When they get their pipe, storm pipe, and more materials on site, then they can start grading, and then they can move on and won't have to pause for materials. So it could be another week or two, but what is some bit of relief is that the same contractor is building the buildings, now is building the parking lot, so it'll be magic how he'll get both of those done at the same time. We don't need one done. We need the parking lot done before the buildings are done, but not vice versa.
David, would it be accurate to say that regardless of who won this bid for this project, that they would have had $59,000 work at it regardless of the bidder?
It would have been. I had the engineer look at this, and he said the $59,000 is a fair price for the amount of work and the amount of things that are going on around that we've asked them to do. The fact that Peak was, the fact that they were low on the parking lot and they're doing the buildings, are also, I think, bidding on the interior of Adrian's. That's yet to be determined. But the first change order, at times that they can be, you feel that you're being taken advantage of. That's not the case here. We feel like it's well worth this amount of money for what's going to have to happen, both flat work, concrete work, rails, grading, piping. There's quite a bit to do down there to tie that site together.
Thank you, sir. We've all seen how it looks now, and it's gonna make a major difference once the work is completed on that particular
They
project.
added doors since I last looked at that building.
So we can get a motion to approve this change for Peak Steel Construction Company.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposes, none. Vote unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nine. Are there any unfinished business? A new business, we're gonna put our Madison Police Department down to the end because I don't think they could be here till around 6, is that right, Carlos? Okay, so we have with us tonight, Ms. Broomley, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kegemeyer? Bromley. Okay, if you will come to the podium there and give us your name and where you live, please.
My name is Bromley Crackmeyer,
Mhm.
and I'm a new resident on North Main Street. My
Okay.
husband and I moved here from Atlanta,
Mm-hmm,
and I'm here, I wrote a letter, I assume everyone saw the
Mhm.
letter regarding our concern for the speeding on North Main Street.
mm-hmm,
I'm aware that you all did a speed study in May of 2019, and that it really didn't show any smoking guns per se. However, we have some concerns about speeding in front of our house and mostly just coming into town. We live about the second house from Tequila's Golden Pantry. And walking back from Tequila's the other night, we noticed that there is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit sign that's completely obstructed by trees. There's also a speed indicator on that speed limit sign that is not working and can't work because it's obstructed. So I made some pictures for all of y'all to see. So I feel like if we could get that speed limit sign out in front, a sign that is out in front is a sign for the library. And then you've got a bunch of trees, and then you've got the obstructed speed limit sign that's just before the corner of North Ave.
mm-hmm.
You know, I did call Chief Ashburn about a month ago, and he did tell me about your speed study and that City of Madison Police don't really have any jurisdiction over Main Street. I was mostly asking for enforcement. I welcome all of you to come and sit on my porch and witness the 18-wheelers loaded with logs, whatever else, coming barreling into town. I know that about 400 or less than, maybe it's more than, at this time I've been told that the volume of traffic on Main Street has increased, but it's about 400 people going at least 11 miles over the speed limit per week out of the 21,000 cars that were documented in the speed study. And, you know, in my opinion, 400 is too many. And what it poses for us, residents of Main Street, is a safety issue as well as quality of life. We both walk. We walk downtown. We walk to Tequila's. We have pets. We have 3 schools just across the street from us on College as well as Lambert Park. There's no crosswalk on North Main Street. We run and walk, and it just seems like the city of Madison could improve our safety measures a little bit more, and I think it would help us be better, more of a walking friendly area, community. I'm certainly willing to help if you have any kind of planning group or commission that you have formed for these issues. I know this has been a popular issue, and I'm not the first person to bring this to your attention.
You're exactly right. And first of all, let me welcome you to Madison. We're glad that you chose Madison to come as
Thank
your,
you.
as your, as
Thank
your livelihood. And we've talked about this matter for many, many years. And what we try to let our constituents know, our citizens know, is this council has tried successfully. We have met with GDOT many, many times, and asked a question to us, and the answer to us is they can do nothing about the traffic on, we can do nothing because it's a state highway and not a city highway. But to answer and alleviate some of your concerns, we have our assistant chief here, Mr. Campbell, and we're going to ask him to come, if you don't mind, and tell us what has happened in the past, you know, and we'll go from there.
Now,
Mr. Powell?
Mr. Mayor, we did put those, so this has been on the radar for a while. And
A long
it's- and
time.
we've tried to be as creative, and I think at our last work session, on the other end, you actually get less traffic than the South Main people do, because the trucks, there's so much
Yes.
more congestion that goes actually in turns on 83 going to Monroe.
Sure.
But we did talk about, we did put those radars in, so those are relatively new.
The speed
Yes,
indicators?
but I think I think they're run by solar, so they might be blocked. I know that, no, it's not.
I'm not sure. I apologize. It's the first, I don't.
I didn't know that
I'm
they
not
weren't
I don't
working.
come in that often that
Yeah,
way, so if
I
it's
don't
not
either.
working, then that needs to be checked.
We do come in off the other
I'd
one.
love to pass my
Yeah.
pictures up to you.
Yeah.
Okay, please pass them around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah,
you tell
I
that's
actually-
to come up too.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I actually talked with Brumley on the phone and told her about, we had done a traffic study.
Okay.
The house that she bought is, I told her that the people that were there before her had the same concerns.
Right.
That's actually on my end of town, and we've had them concerns for a while, so nice to meet you in person. And I asked her to come in. I told her we had done a traffic study. We've done a good bit on that end, but we can only do so much because we only have so many policemen assigned per shift.
Right.
So maybe we can come up with something else. Thank you for coming in and voicing your concerns.
And I would love to ask, is it co-chief?
Coach Campbell,
Assistant co-chief.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Does anyone have any idea where this traffic study was conducted on? Main Street?
he'll be able to tell you when he comes up, yes.
Oh, okay. Because, you know, once you hit North Ave and you're just passing Lambert Park, you are in, you know, the road has pinched. You're in the residential section of Main Street, and that is actually where that speed limit sign is obstructed. So I feel like if it was placed further, you know, maybe towards the Golden Pantry or Tequila's, then the motorists could see it and they could know how fast they're going. I at least think it would be an intent for us to slow some of these people down, that's something that we could do to improve our safety on Main Street.
And, you know, related to that, I think part of that problem is if I understand it correctly, the 45 zone goes right down to North Avenue. And then boom, it's supposed to be 35. So I'm very curious to find out, Assistant Chief Collin, where that actual study was taken, because if it was taken in the 45 zone, 4511, plus 11, that's a lot of speed. Was it taken in the 35 zone? I think that's
Well-
part of the problem. We have
It was
our
taken
new
on
town
the-
park is right there in the 45 zone right now, I think.
It's taken on the town side of College. It was
Well,
almost
it
exactly
says
in front of
35
this
just
house.
before that on this side.
So
I'm sorry,
it's taken
where,
on,
David?
but where on the town side of College? I mean, that's a long, from between Jefferson and College is a pretty good stretch.
Colin, do you remember the address? It's not an address on this one.
I know it was north, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
I know it was north of Bernie Street.
North of Oregon.
So I would say probably almost at the top of the hill. So around Miss Lambert's house?
No, I think it was further out than that. I
Um,
think it was around Billups.
Well, I would
would say
love to know
Phillips
where
also.
this was done.
And I think Billups.
But within the 35 zone.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, it was
Correct.
done. And the placement of of David Nunn, city manager, the placement of the device is not to try to, it is, if the concern is in a residential area, that's where we measure it because that's where the concern is. If we go further out, the speeds are going to be higher at the Golden Pantry or.
I understand that. My concern was that it was further into town.
Yes, ma'am.
However, it is 35.
Yes, ma'am.
Before my house.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was.
But what we would like to do, and we have a new device that will count the same way, is I would like to place this device at the same location and count it again. This is 3 years further in to see numbers, speeds, type of traffic. We'll just repeat the study and see that's what we have to go by when we're looking at the speed on the street and numbers and, time of traffic and this kind of thing. That, it quantifies what people are seeing or telling us, and that's what we need to go by.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
as you know, I do spend a lot of time driving around Madison because of all the projects that we have going on. And I think just from an observation, I'm in total agreement with you. I think it needs to be reviewed, because if you go to the Jefferson stoplight or Main Street and you look back up the hill, there's cars backed up all the way. The traffic, I do believe, is greater than it was before. And I kind of disagree with Chris on that.
No, I didn't say it was greater, I'm just saying the other side gets more.
Yeah,
it's
but
more.
that side does get a lot of the school traffic. They
That's
still-
what's going on now.
They still go to school that way.
Yes.
I
Turn-
think that's where a lot of the noise.
It's school.
It's
Yes.
coming from the excessive.
But, I just I think you have a very valid point, and David, I agree with you. I think we just need to study it, and we need to get it taken care of.
Well,
I mean-
all we can do is
We've
do a
done it.
study.
To our
Yeah,
best-
we've done that several
It's like
times, yeah.
We've had meetings with
Yeah,
DOT.
that's-
Now,
We have.
Mr. Mayor,
we've talked
Mr.
about
Mayor.
doing a four-way,
We did.
traffic circles to kind of do it, but then you've got trucks. Where do you put the traffic circles? I don't know. There's got
I-
to be a solution.
Well, my thing, Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yeah, sure.
So for me, back in 2019, the middle school was then on that side of town. Now the middle school, all schools are now here on College Avenue. So it's a lot more kids and a lot more parents taking their kids to school. So it's definitely going to be more traffic now because, it's in-town traffic. It's
Absolutely.
not also just people coming from out of town.
Right.
So the dynamics of the city have changed because the school relocated. And we did study it in 2019, but, if we do another study now, we might find something a little more different, but GDOT definitely came in and told us, no.
Mr. Mayor, may
Yeah.
I commit? The only reason I'm saying is if we can do something that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, put monitors up there, I think we need to gather that information and we need to look at it because it has changed,
It has.
in my opinion.
It has.
And I'm not saying we can get DOT to do anything because that's like trying to move Mount Rushmore. But if we can do something that doesn't cost $100,000, and I don't think what David's talking about by going up there and just monitoring it would cost that much. But, for us to make a decision, we got to be responsible. Even though DOT doesn't want to help us, we need to really look out for the safety as best we can. And if we can do it cost effectively, I recommend we do that.
Well, I would propose to wait till we get a study, and I'm still waiting on our assistant chief to come and let us know what happened in the past, so we can all get an understanding of
Okay.
where we are.
Right, because I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, and I also think about, we were talking about a crosswalk. Would you feel safe in a crosswalk
That's right.
with traffic going that fast
Exactly.
on Main
Yeah.
Street?
Exactly.
No.
May I?
Sure.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I didn't recognize, I didn't wait to be recognized earlier to speak. I apologize. And if I was told by some neighbors that it's a problem for the police to pull over large trucks on Main, but there are so many side streets, I don't know, in my opinion, there's much more to lose for those trucks to continue to speed into town. What if a child or a person or somebody was in the road and they're going so fast, they're so heavy and so large, they can't possibly stop in time. So to me, if we could just, make an impression upon some of these people, I'm sure they communicate with one another, that we are coming down on, motorists speeding going over the speed limit, that I think it could possibly slow them down coming through town if they were more afraid of getting a ticket.
Right. And again, I just asked us to give a moment to have our assistant chief to come and explain to us.
All right.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank y'all for having me. Basically, obviously, I received the email from Miss, I'm going to mispronounce it. Bromley, Miss Bromley, okay. And I just wanted to add some clarity to it as well, because I was part of the conversation. I was actually in Chief's office when they spoke. Like we said, when it comes to limiting the tractor trailers, the city really can't do much of that. Limiting how many tractor trailers use that roadway being a state route. And so I did bring some numbers just to kind of, let Ms. Bromley know that, her email does say a lack of concern. So, that was a concern I had, and I wanted to clarify some of that. For the first 6 months of this year, January through the end of June, our patrol division has responded to over 3,600 calls for service. So we're averaging a little over 600 calls for service a month. Our patrol division has initiated over 1,200 traffic stops citywide in those 6 months. 131 of those traffic stops were Main Street. And those run the gamut of every traffic violation, from speeding to hands-free violations to DUIs. So, we are, enforcing traffic violations on Main Street, just like we are in other streets and highways in the city of Madison. You see our two officers behind you here. Those are the two that work today. I'm not saying, I never want to blame anybody. I never want to put words in people's mouths, but, they're patrolling 9 square miles today, by themselves. And they can't be everywhere at once. And I'm not saying you don't know that. With Mr. Nunn's direction, we will deploy the Metro counter again. We actually have a new device that actually can attach to a tree or a pole. I think you've seen the old devices, the tubes on the road, and you've got to drill the tubes in, and we've gotten rid of that old equipment and bought some new equipment this year. So like I said, with his direction, we'll deploy the Metro counter again, and we'll continue to enforce traffic on Main Street, and we'll actually increase. I'll make sure our patrol division starts working some extra details on Main Street. Not a problem.
Chief, Assistant Chief, can I ask you a question? And I don't know if we have, this might be a over $100,000 plan, but is the technology out there to take pictures of speeders? And I mean, I've gotten a ticket from my daughter in California for something. I mean, there are places that issue speed tickets via camera, don't they? Is there any way we could do something like that, or is that just?
I will speak on behalf of the state of Georgia in regards to that, being, City of Roswell and a lot of your metro agencies did that. When you deploy speed cameras, it becomes a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter because the officers aren't observing the violation when it happens.
Gotcha.
And the City of Roswell actually removed all of their red light cameras, speeding cameras, because the people weren't paying them. They weren't paying the fines, and the City of Roswell couldn't do anything, but then they'd have to sue them. So it costs the City of Roswell more money to sue.
Okay.
Now, like I said, I don't know what happens out in other states, but, with the officer not observing the violation, it becomes a civil matter, and it goes to civil court. It does, I don't even know if it would go through municipal court.
Gotcha, okay. That answers that.
If I could ask you, is not that section of North Main we're talking about, is it not, it's signed for being under radar surveillance, is it not? It's registered with the state?
Correct.
Do we give citations using radar devices on that?
Radar and LiDAR. We have, basically our department has 2 forms of speed detection devices.
I didn't catch, you said 1,200, was it traffic stops for the first 6 months of this year?
Correct, 1,213 total traffic.
How many were up in that area? I missed that number.
131.
Out of our our budget book that Karen put together, our finance manager, it's got citations issued going back over the last 10 years. I don't really know the definition of citations. It could be citations for not mowing the lawn, I'm not really sure. It could be parking citations, but the numbers are not looking really sterling. I mean, and I realize we've had COVID issues to deal with, and I realize in 2020, we had only 11 officers, according to this report, but they wrote 858 citations for 2020 with 10 officers back in 2012. They wrote double the number of citations, 1,655. And like I say, Colin, I don't know if that's really moving citations. I'm not sure of the definition, but it doesn't look like we're maybe citing as often as we have in the past. It's a pretty consistent 2,000 a year, all the way up to 2018, dropped to 1,600, 2019 to 1,500, and then a big drop in 2020. You would know more.
Well, on behalf of 2020, we gave direction to our patrol officers, and when you mention 11, that's 11 sworn. That's not all patrol. That includes the chief and myself and our detectives. You know, we lost 4 sworn officers back in 2020 due to families not wanting the police anymore due to the law enforcement environment. Like I said, I don't want to make excuses, but we did give direction to our patrolmen. You know, every contact with somebody, whether it's a traffic stop or a domestic violence call, is also a possibility of contact with COVID. You know, and you know, we were trying to keep them safe, being front line. You know, luckily so far, you know, we haven't had but a couple of us that have tested positive and had to quarantine. And you know, as you know as well, if you look at the budgets, our overtime budget was, you know, way above. You know, I mean, we blew through the roof twice last year in overtime, being, you know, shorthanded and losing people out to COVID. So, you know, 2020 was different. I don't want to make excuses. But yes, 2020 definitely, where there's a drastic reduction.
What is your normal number for your force, your police squad?
Manpower size?
Yes.
We are 15 sworn, 2 civilian.
And is that a normal amount, or are you up to, I'm just asking if you have all.
Are we fully staffed?
Yes.
Yes and no. We just had one found out she was pregnant, so she'll be coming off the road. She may not want the whole world to know, but I just said it. And then we have a new guy starting Wednesday night. So yes, hopefully once he goes through the field training program, we'll be fully staffed with basically 10 patrol. We have 2 detectives, and then you have the chief and myself. And
Can I ask you a question, please, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
So how many patrolmen do you have per shift?
currently, right now, as of today, we have 2 on day shift and 2 on night shift. When we're fully staffed, we run that swing shift, which is noon to midnight, to allow 3 officers from noon to midnight, which is usually the busiest time of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanton, you was
Yes,
going to
sir.
say
Mr.
something?
Mayor, it seems to me that, I know we put that speed flashing sign there, and we had a problem with it, and I think it's solar. Her pictures show that. After that, we put the one on South Main Street, and we haven't done a study that I'm aware of, but the concerned parties that are on South Main Street, and I drive there many, many times a day, it seems to me that those work. It seems to me that people see those and.
And slow down?
I told my kids that they give you tickets if you go by too fast, but,
We did have like a blinking thing at the.
you know, but I think those work, and Ms. Bromley is saying that if it's not working and maybe it's obstructed, so we might have an opportunity to make some big progress.
Yes.
Maybe look at that as going back if it is the solar
I'm
technology.
not sure that that sign was even there when this study was done,
Right.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think it was.
What I'd caution you is if you had limited money and you could patrol or you could put speed on city streets where we could do traffic calming devices, speed bumps or speed tables, roundabouts, whatever you're going to do, you wouldn't put your energy where 2% are breaking, that you can ticket vehicles. That's where this study came down. It showed very, very, very little enforceability. I'll be interested to see what the new one does, whether or not whether or not the radar sign is working or not. I'd be interested to see. And I'd also be interested to put it back where it was before, somewhere around Billups, between Billups and College, so you'll capture a lot of the school traffic coming back into town, buses, cars. If you look at the study and the time of day, you see that there's a big influence from the schools during that 3 to 4 period and during that, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 period in the afternoon. So we're probably going to have more of that, maybe more buses. It'd be interesting to compare the two, this study with the next one.
You know,
Mr.
Rick,
Mayor.
to your point, the sign at the south end of town, that is a different design completely than the one up at the north end. That one at the south end, I think, really is a winner.
I don't think
mean,
so.
it-
It's the
It
same-
flashes.
It's
it tells you
the
things.
same sign. They can be set up differently. There are lots of options. The one on the south end, the biggest thing is it's wired in. We've got
Yeah.
we've got streetlights that we pay the power bill, so we pull the wire. This one out here, we don't have that, so we may have a solar panel problem. We may have a sign problem. I just have to get it checked.
Ms. Brumley?
You know, David, you have said 2% a few times, but 2% of 21 plus thousand is still 400 speeders a week. So that's significant. In my opinion, we're a small town, and there are just a handful of residents on Main Street. So I please don't,
Ma'am, I'm not trying to diminish anything. When someone says, we can't wait until someone gets hit or a mother's crossing the street with a child, you don't know what that does to me, because, we deal with it on every street, not just North Main. Every intersection, stoplights downtown, so we really, really take it to heart and do all we can. I don't say this publicly, well, no, I'm not gonna say it, because it might make us take the signs down. The radar signs are effective. I think I call them speed awareness signs. Whether people think they do, we do write tickets. They do take pictures, let's say it that way. But we're gonna make sure that one's working if we have to replace it. It's a good
It
location.
needs to be moved in the forefront where people can see it. It's totally obstructed by trees when you're even just.
We can trim the trees. We can make it,
But if you looked at these,
Yes,
there's a
ma'am.
library sign
Okay.
before the speed limit
Yes,
sign.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one thing, if I could just add my voice to thanking the Creek Myers for coming to
Absolutely.
Madison and bringing this to our attention again. I think we all
Absolutely.
kind of need to be reminded every now and then.
But
And I
of course,
think-
we get this reminder every year.
We do.
What we do.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, quite
Every
often,
year.
every
And I
week.
think along that point, I think it's important to focus on, we do realize there's things we can't do because it's a state highway. We kind of know that. But there
The-
are things that we can do, and I think that's what we need to focus
The
on.
flags were one of
Whether it's
those things.
enforcement,
The other-
signage,
yeah.
The blinking, flashing sign that works so well down there, whether it's maybe thinking about moving, probably has to involve.
So let's get
I
the
think
chief
those
back
flags
on.
work.
35 zone farther north
What-
of Maine.
Let's get the chief back on again.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple comments, and like I said, even without the study, I'll advise our guys and direct them to increase traffic enforcement. So study or no study, we will. And just for people that aren't aware, we have a speed permit through the state of Georgia. Every 3 years, we have to renew it, actually coming up this year. Department of Public Safety is who issues that. So we have a list of streets we're allowed to operate radar and LiDAR. Luckily, Main Street's one of them. There are city streets out here that we do have complaints on that we're not even allowed to operate speed detection devices on. I will blame state of Georgia, and this is something I wasn't going to mention, but I will, just to kind of let you know what we have to go through, because the last thing we want to do is lose our speed permit or become, the old Ludowici, Georgia, and be a nightmare. State law requires us, when you cross that reduction speed sign, we're required to give you 300 feet to reduce your speed to what the new posted sign is. And so that's just things that we have to deal with, and technically, which this really doesn't matter, our patrol, because basically our radars are mounted in the patrol car, all right? The LiDARs are handheld, the officer can get out of the car, It's got a scope on it, and we can aim and shoot at a car. Those speed detection devices cannot even be used within 300 feet. Now, we can be 302 feet, and I think with Google Maps, I kind of did y'all's driveway to the speed reduction side, and I think it's like 318 feet roughly. Yeah, which, so like, you know, so if we were standing in your driveway, you know, we can shoot people, but like I said, you got to understand, state law also requires us to allow an operator 300 feet to reduce their speed. It's 500 feet in the county. So, you know, there are laws that we have to follow before we can actually, you know, initiate, you know, a traffic stop and enforce. But no, like I said, study or no study, we will increase our enforcement on North Main.
You're welcome to come sit in my driveway anytime.
Absolutely.
And if y'all need help moving that sign, my husband, he can do anything.
What, I want to clarify something else. When we install those radar signs, we place them where DOT has placed the speed limit sign. We can't arbitrarily pick the 35 mile an hour speed sign up and move it 100 feet in one direction to the other. We simply cannot do that. That will void radar tickets, LiDAR tickets based on our permit. Where that sign is where the DOT says that zone starts and stops. And we don't put the radar sign up arbitrarily because it is a speed limit sign. And it just, also you add the speed awareness component to it. But it's fundamentally and basically a speed zone sign, and it is, the location for that is established by DOT.
So to expand the North Main 35 zone
Out.
farther north, we have to talk to.
DOT would have to do a
DOT.
speed, they would have to do what they call a speed study.
So if
So,
I remember correctly, Mr. Mayor, in our past conversations about this, the historic district can be treated differently. Do y'all remember that?
You're correct.
Yeah. So I don't know if that is something, what is that, Monica probably can answer this, I don't know who's talking, but I just
Her
remember,
microphone's not working.
I just remember.
You're correct.
Okay.
A registered historic district through the state of Georgia, you can cite people for travel. And state law requires us to give you 10 miles over the speed limit. That's state law. That's for
Yeah.
municipalities, counties, and campus police officers. Georgia State Patrol can stop you for 1 mile over the speed limit. I caution you, though, like I said earlier, you know, Ludowici, Georgia. And also, the Department of Public Safety will start looking at us a lot more because you can have no more than 40% of your speeding revenue in fines generated from speeds between 1 and 14 miles an hour.
So is there any way not to, can we just pull them over and like scare and not get a fine? I mean, is there not, you know, it's, at
No.
some point, I mean, what?
Judge, you got to follow the law, Chris.
Well, no, I'm not saying not follow the law. I'm saying you can pull somebody over and give them a warning and not fine them. I
For
mean,
no
he's saying
reason?
you can't,
I mean,
if they're speeding,
yeah, if they're speeding.
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. If he's
Are you
saying you
talking
can't
about 10
collect
mi-
so many fines.
10
So-
miles, or if you say 3 miles an hour over.
If I
yours-
remember correctly, and then y'all correct me if I'm wrong, in a historic district, you can pull somebody over if they're going 36.
As long as the historic district is properly signed, which I believe this one is, at least at
That's
the North
right.
Main end of it.
The sign
And
for
you-
the historic district is before Tequila.
Yeah.
And so and I'm just thinking outside the box, I'm trying to be creative here. If they pull over and give a warning, then you're not violating the fine sheet.
I would strongly caution against warning anybody that you couldn't otherwise write a ticket for. And you could, but you go over that 2 mile an hour over. I look at when I drive through a small town. When I drive through a small town, in towns in South Georgia, I'm not naming any of them, but if you're 11 or 12 or 13 miles an hour over, you might get a ticket. But I know if I'm 10 over, I'm gonna be okay. Do we want people easing through downtown Madison at 10 over or 9 or 5 and get a stop and get a warning? Do you want that?
Yes.
That's, I don't think you do.
To that point, if I could, David, you've got the, only 2% is going 11 miles an hour. That's surprisingly low. How much is going any speed limit over the limit? I'm having trouble figuring that out on this report. Can you,
How many what?
what percentage of traffic is going 1 mile or more over the speed limit, not just 11 miles?
If the speed limit's 35,
Couldn't
or
quite
the
figure
speed limit's
this out.
35, So if you go to the next, you go to 35 to 40 is 30.5%. And from 40 to 45 is 6.9%. So you've got 37% is in that 10 miles an hour over.
That seems like a lot.
It's a bell curve. It's just where the speeds naturally occur within a speed zone. We see this when we study a lot of streets. When we just studied Vine Street not long ago, a city streets, a cut-through street. Housing authorities over there, a lot of houses, and it'll have 20 to 25% over the 10 miles over the posted speed limit. And that definitely needs traffic calm, and it deserves to do a lot, because I think it may be 25 miles an hour. So this one surprised me that it wasn't worse than it was when we did it. Now, it may have changed, and that's what will be interesting to see.
But I think that we have the control and luxury of installing traffic calming on areas like Vine Street that we don't have here,
We
so.
don't have it on Main Street.
Yeah, so that's where the creative solution may be.
So I guess what we need to do is just, Carl's gonna do what he needs to do. He said he's gonna have more officers out there, I guess, in the near future, whatever, and let's see what happens after that.
We'll get the radar sign
Right.
corrected. We'll get it repaired, replaced, whatever we need to do. I'm sorry that it's not working. I should have called that.
But even where it is like the assistant chief was saying, the residential section starts greater than 300 feet past that sign. I mean, my neighbor is more than 18 feet to me, so in my opinion, we need to look into having it moved up, just even out in front of some of these other signs, like a sign for the library.
So you're talking about having the sign moved up?
Yes,
And I
sign
think-
moved up.
I think the manager
So
just said
that
we
it's
couldn't,
slowing down.
you said we couldn't move that
We
sign?
can't move, we can't move.
Yeah, we
the
can't
sign.
move that, because of ZDOT, ma'am.
We'll look at the visibility. When I looked at it, I thought it was fine, because I could see it and I could see my speed and could become aware of my speed coming into that area. And it's the fact of the matter is, that is the beginning of the residential district on that side of the street. The residential district,
Goes
the
back.
residential area on the other side of the street starts a quarter mile down.
It does?
At the city limits.
Yeah. The
So,
city limits are closer
If you want to
to
be
Youngblood.
completely fair, you move it all the way out.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And you
where the
put it at
historic
45.
district sign says, where it says entering Madison Historic District, which is before the tequilas.
Yes.
Yes.
And then that gives people time to slow down. But talking about speed calming devices, I was doing some research, and there is a way to do a pinch in the road and do a crosswalk in the middle of that traffic calming approach, which would also give us a crosswalk for Lambert Park and schools, not to add one more thing to your
No,
list.
we had talked about that at the last meeting on the other side, doing something like that.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for hearing me.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your comment.
Yeah, and I'm
Brent.
happy to help. If y'all need another hand or another set of eyes to do research on any of these things, I'm at home, I'm a retired nurse, and I'm happy to help in any way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, we're going to turn it over to our chief again.
Okay. I usually don't need a mic, but I'll use it. Good evening, thanks for having me. This evening, I'm here to recognize two of our officers with our department's Life-Saving Award. I'd like to start by explaining what happened in the early morning hours of July 1st. Corporal Eaton and Officer Rowe were dispatched to one of our local hotels, referencing an unresponsive person call. Officer Rowe arrived first and observed a subject performing CPR on another subject. Officer Rowe reacted swiftly and realizing he had an unresponsive person in front of him that may be suffering from a drug overdose, he immediately administered a dose of Narcan to the subject. Corporal Eaton arrived shortly after and observed Officer Rowe and the other subject performing CPR on the unresponsive subject. Corporal Eaton administered another dose of Narcan. The unresponsive subject had no pulse, was not breathing, and was cold to the touch. The subject was dead. Corporal Eaton and Officer Rowe would not give up, and they continued CPR utilizing the buddy system. Morgan County Sheriff's Deputy Kitchens arrived and assisted with rounds of CPR. After several rounds of CPR, the unresponsive subject took a deep breath and raised his right arm. A pulse was checked for and detected. National EMS arrived on scene, and the subject was transported to Morgan Medical for treatment. Tonight, I would like to recognize these two officers for their exceptional courage and performance on that morning. They are heroes. These two officers will tell you they are not heroes. They were just doing their job. But tonight, let's call them heroes. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
So Corporal Stacy Eaton and Officer Blake Rowe, congratulations.
The mic is yours.
Great work.
Please say something to us.
Have you, either one of you had this work before?
Wow, wonderful, wonderful.
How long were you just CPR for the 3 of us that were doing it probably 4 or 5 minutes?
Wow.
And that's how long that was without a pulse. And the manager at the very beginning was doing it when Officer Rose first arrived. The time of the call coming in, I mean, kind of estimate maybe 10 minutes that he was down.
Okay, Corporal Rose and Officer Blake. Thank you for your service.
That's it for me.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bud.
Can we get another item added to our agenda for tonight? And I'm sorry. Can we get another item added to our agenda for tonight? It's about this Carl Benson Institute for background purposes. If we could get that added to our agenda before our city manager comes.
Well, you said Carl Vinson Institute,
Just concerning them, yes.
concerning Carl Vinson Institute, added.
So moved.
Second.
There any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, is none. Hold on for 1 minute. You can go ahead and explain it to them. Sure you can, sure you can.
Mr. Mayor, as you are and as the council is aware, the Carl Vinson Institute is doing two studies for the city right now. One is a management survey or a management study of the practices of the city all over a lot of the supervisors. I think all of the mayor and council have been interviewed about different things. And that is ongoing. They're also doing a review of the personnel manual and policies of the city. And those two studies are coming together. The management study, I assume, will come with recommendations for the city on different things. I look forward to seeing that. And then the policy and procedures manual will be updated based on recommendations from the person that's doing that study as well. But there was also interest in doing an employee satisfaction study, a deeper dive into the kind of the morale of city employees, the rank and file, not necessarily from the council, not necessarily from supervisors, but what they propose to do is to talk over the telephone or in person to up to 20% of the full-time employees. I think the estimated number is about 13, and these will be randomly selected. They'll be will be confidential. They'll assure the employees that their comments won't be tagged to them, so they can speak freely and speak without fear of retribution or anything like that. This will be added to the deliverables, and it'll be a little bit of cost, $6,000, a flat fee that will be done by, I think, Dr. Sanford will be doing this, and also Julia Amon will be assisting with this. I'll take any questions. I think, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned this to Dr. Sanford.
I did.
And this is something that they suggested, based on how they do things in a manager form of government, they didn't want to move ahead without the manager being at least aware of it, and I appreciate that. That's a professional way to go about it, and it's a courtesy to me. I have no problem with it whatsoever. My time is drawing nigh.
Yeah, this is all for future,
And it's
for
all
the future,
but
the future.
Again, I can't help thinking that, every manager deserves this on their way out.
Yeah.
To see what people, good or bad,
Absolutely.
I guess. So, it's a little bit of anxiety for me, but that's a personal.
Well, I've met with Paula, Dr. Sanford, and she is totally professional.
Oh,
And I don't think that they are gonna extrapolate any kind of emotion. I think it will all be based on just the way the organization is working and where people feel comfortable and morale and how we can make sure that our employees are happy and that kind of thing. And I think really
Ways-
looking at our pension
Ways
stuff
to
too.
improve.
Yep, so I think I think it's imperative that we do this. Is it gonna be every single city department though?
They're going to select I'm sure.
I mean,
I'm
is it
pretty
every
sure it'll be probably
department?
one from one department
They'll
or
do
something,
it
but
they'll
gonna
do it at
select.
a random. I'm not sure how they'll
But
make
it's
the
every
selections.
department.
Every department
every-
should be represented,
Okay.
yes. But again, elected officials won't be called on again.
Exactly.
Supervisors won't be.
Just-
This will be
Just the employee.
a subset, and then they'll randomly select those. But I would hope that they would get some out of the different varied from police, and that they would get some from water utilities and the plants and admin. I would hope that they would get a.
Well, it's what do they call this, the age of resignation, and and employee satisfaction is one of the reasons people are just leaving their current jobs, and so we want to make sure that people are happy, or, and the morale's high, and if they can feel validated, even anonymously, I think that's important to an organization. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for pushing this.
Thank you.
If we could get a motion and a second from my council to
Mr.
allow our manager to let them go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, this will be a two-step process.
All right.
I'm not sure if a formal vote at this time, since it wasn't on the
Verbal?
agenda, it may just be just a nod, and then they will bring back a contract or an addendum to the contract that you can act on at your next
Sounds great.
quickest meeting, if that's okay.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Dave.
Now, a report from our city manager.
Oh, Lord, let me get the cheat sheet. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it with me. Just few things, we'll run down the list real quick. We got our last parcel. I think I've reported to you the final parcel, the Jackson tract, is now, or very soon will be, if it's not already, fee simple title to the city. That was about 47 acres. But the next step is value. So that's the haggling will be that will be about what is the fair price for that piece of property. and that's what we'll be doing for the next little while. Street paving, LMIG, your resurfacing is coming up. You remember the streets, I can call them out to you. Airport Industrial Boulevard, North Fifth Street, Billups Street, Hugh Circle, Turner Drive, Gilmore Lane, Skyline Drive, East Skyline and West Skyline Drive, and High Street. We tried to work in there and get some whole neighborhoods and not leave any stub streets off, like Skyline and Hugh Circle. We tried to work out toward the airport. Penpack is putting a nice new addition onto their building, big new warehouse, a lot of investment in the city. And the road out there is kind of in rough shape, so we needed to get it resurfaced all the way out to the airport. So we're doing that. And then we're also picking up Fifth Street through down to Billups. And we'll do some heavy milling down there. Another area that we might look at sidewalks, to tie some sidewalks together. And I walked that area one day and thought it would be good
Yes.
if we were doing some work down there.
Thank you.
Doing work down here on Hancock Street where Mr. Snyder's doing a lot of good work. He's done some work on the inside of the sidewalk. We put in tree grates. There are 2 more tree grates to go in when they arrive. And we'll have other street furniture, trash cans, street lights will come in when Georgia Power gets those for us, and maybe some benches, and that whole block will be transformed, and hopefully a lot of life down through there. Sidewalks, we'll pour in the next few days our first new sections of sidewalks down Jefferson Street. Our kind of strategy to work with subs to do the grading and then subs to do the concrete work, I think is going to work for us. It's going to be economical. It may be a tad on the slow side, but we'll be working at it all the time. We'll have something tore up all the time. So we're looking to get some more of that poured and worked on through East Jefferson Street, and then we'll work on over to Vine and try to get that done, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, that's exciting to see that work going on there.
Yeah, we're gonna deal with some water issues down through there on both sides of the street, and then we're gonna give folks a nice new sidewalk all the way out from Vine, all the way out from that area back into town. And City Hall, the 4 contractors went through and are working on proposals for City Hall. They're super strong preservation, strong contractors, both fairly large and medium-sized. Proposals are due this Friday. And
Maybe we could get a Georgia Trust Award. Are you keeping everything
I think,
like at that point?
yes. Yes, I think it's, that building's done the way it's been planned. I think it'd be certainly
That's always like a
eligible for
good.
that. West Washington Gateway, the parking lot, again, thank you for the change order. They'll start in a couple of weeks. Peak Steel was the low, and of course, we did a little change order to tie those projects together. I just issued a purchase order today, about $40,000 to $44,000 for 10 parking lot lights. They're totally solar. They will work for. They're reasonable as far as the cost, but there'll be no power bill associated, no wiring. Yes, they're very, very conscious about that. I just ordered today. There is one 2-head solar light that we did as a demo, and it's over in the parking lot at the Aquatic Center. If it's real dark at night and you want to ride through and take a look.
I'm gonna go by there tonight.
And also, the last thing I have, and I'll take a question if you have any, is the tennis court resurfacing looks really good. I want to thank the county again. We piggybacked on their contract, and the school was pitched in on. They had to totally redo the College Drive tennis courts. They had to do 8 over there. We did 4 down here. We're hearing really, really strong comments in a good way about pickleball, and we got 6 pickleball courts and 2 regular tennis courts down there, all new fencing, netting, We'll work on the landscaping, the walkways, we'll restripe the parking lot. We pulled out the lower pedal, is that right? We pulled out that hedge that grows so high that you can't see how to get out of the parking lot. We'll put in
Right.
something that's a little more sensible there, and we'll get back around to working on the restroom as a prototype for all our parks.
Thank you.
And maybe try to get that done. I'll answer any questions.
Is there an arrival time for reopening up the courts? I kinda jumped the
We
gun.
walked through with, again, specifically, I want to thank Lance Alexander with the Recreation Department. He is tough on contractors. He is very fastidious and very particular.
Dying games he didn't like.
And he could see things that I couldn't see, but when that project is going to be over $250,000, just our cost. So we deserve to have the very best that we can get, and Lance is making sure of that. And hopefully within a couple of weeks, they'll have those little punch list items done, and we'll make an announcement to the public that they're wide open and ready to go. Play pickleball, tennis.
I guess we need to have some lessons. Put a YouTube video of.
YouTube. YouTube will
Well, you
too.
know,
Everybody does it.
I was talking to Lance because I was concerned, since I don't know a darn thing about pickleball either, I was concerned that they wouldn't really be used. He said, don't worry about that, they're gonna be used. And he said that right now, they set up two kind of temporary courts in the gym of
Yes.
the college. In the morning, if you want to go by and see what the game looks like, that's a good chance to,
You don't need it equipment, do you?
well, just two paddles and
Just a paddle and
like
wiffle ball. Not much.
You do need two paddles. What do you think you're gonna do?
I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. We'll watch it on YouTube.
Thank you, Mr. Nunn, for that
Thank you.
thorough report. Appreciate it so much. And I'd like to remind our council members to please wear your walking shoes at our next work session. We're going to see Canaan. So please.
Canaan Crossing.
That's October the 4th.
We're gonna see what?
Work session is October 1st,
October the 1st. Our work session is the 1st.
and then a call
and
meeting
the call
on the
meeting is
4th.
October the 4th. Okay.
And just as last thing, talking about the Hancock Street and that block, Mr. Snyder is close to opening a lot of his things down there. And if you had the opportunity to walk through on Friday, it was quite an eye opener. Reimagining that building, you know, my whole life has been a funeral home, but for it to be restaurants and different concepts and residential upstairs is really, really neat. More neat living spaces downtown that will just bring more life and vibrancy to downtown is really, really cool. And Sinclair, which is a neat little spot in and of itself.
Very unique. I think those who went on the tour Friday, Eric.
I didn't get to go.
Yeah,
and it's great. Also Chris, yeah, it's great. Are there any comments from the public? If not, this meeting is adjourned.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment, I'm not the public.
Okay.
I'd like to thank Ms. Bromley again for demonstrating some things that we as council members should look to do. She kept raising her hand to be recognized. When I went to GMA down in Savannah, I had the privilege of going to how to run an effective and productive meeting. And we should all learn to ask for recognition to talk and not do all this machine gun conversation. We're talking over each other, and I would kind of like to encourage all of our council people to, if you haven't taken that course, look at it. We can get more done if we follow that procedure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Latham. I think we have this work session every year. Talk about this. We do, yes. There are no more comments, no more. This meeting is adjourned. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Sure. We got